Once a small coupe, Kia's ProCeed is now a small estate, but a very stylish one. The brand has chosen to supplement its existing Ceed Sportswagon with this swoopier ProCeed shooting brake model to create a fastback look with that want one factor. The brand promises that the drive dynamics will match the aesthetic promise too.
Evolution. It's all about adapting to changing conditions, as this Kia ProCeed model line has needed to. Originally marketed as a three-door coupe in its first 2 generations of life, this Mark III version has transformed itself into this sleek shooting brake design. It's proof that this Korean maker's cars are getting steadily more desirable. The classic definition of shooting brake is an extended roofline version of a 2-door coupe like the Volvo P1800 ES and the Reliant Scimitar models of the 70s. But as you can see, that's not really what we've got here. Now, Kia likes the way that Mercedes interpreted that concept in 2015 when they launched their CLA shooting brake, swept-back styling with 5-door practicality. And here, the Korean maker has tried to replicate that approach at a slightly lower price point. This ProCeed shares all its core engineering with hatch, estate and SUV versions of Kia's Ceed model line. We're promised more focused drive dynamics though, courtesy of a team led by ex-BMW M chief Albert Biermann, who's particularly pleased with the potent 201 brake horsepower GT version that we're going to test here. There are, however, lesser petrol and diesel derivatives for those who are not quite so fixated on Nürburgring lap times. So, good looks, decent dynamics and pricing that's not too excessive, plus an astonishingly long 7-year warranty. It's an appealing combination, but can the end result deliver? Let's find out. Gone are the days when Kia was content to merely try to reach a minimum class standard when it comes to drive dynamics. Albert Biermann, once of BMW's M Performance division and now Kia's head of handling development, spent 6 months with his team at the Nürburgring Nordschleife fine-tuning this ProCeed, and the brand promises that you'll really feel the difference even on a very short test drive, and particularly in the top GT model that we're trying here. Lesser ProCeed variants use a couple of Winning engines, either a 138 bhp 1.4 litre TGDI petrol unit or a 134 bhp 1.6 litre CRDI diesel. GT buyers though get the full fat 1.6 litre TGDI petrol lifted straight from the Ceed GT hot hatch, along with a package of engineering changes which are intended to give this car a bit of extra handling focus. Revisions over the Ceed hatch include a body lowered by 5mm, plus a rather counterintuitive combination of stiffer springs and softer anti-roll bars to keep the grippy Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyres in better contact with the road surface. On the move, you realise immediately that the setup is firmer than it would be on a normal Ceed, but at the same time, the car flows over uneven tarmac with supple confidence, and when the road turns twisty, the consistent and relatively feelsome steering delivers enough feedback to encourage a more aggressive driving style, should that be appropriate. The GT's 1.6 litre petrol turbo puts out 201 brake horsepower, which is fairly modest in performance terms these days. Biermann and his team, though, proved in development of this car's impressive Hyundai i30N shopping rocket cousin that outright power is just one component of effective drive dynamics, and they've done so once again here. You don't, of course, get all the different drive modes that you get on the i30N. You get just one, a sports setting, which governs the calibration of the steering, the throttle response, and the shift action of the 7-speed dual-clutch auto gearbox that ProCeed GT buyers have to have. If you want this engine with a manual stick shift, then you'll have to choose the Ceed GT hatch. To be frank, we think that the DCT Auto is the least effective part of the package. It doesn't feel particularly tailored to a performance-orientated shift pattern, and when you use the metal steering wheel paddle shifters to come down through the box into a corner from speed, you'll find it unwilling to make swift down changes unless it's good and ready. Still, you do need that DCT package to get the extra performance mode I just mentioned. Lots of cars seem to have some sort of selectable sport setting these days, but we can't think of one in which that selection makes the kind of difference that it does here. Press the button, and to accompany all the dynamic tweaks I just mentioned, you get a much more purposeful soundtrack that's generated partly through a set of flaps in the exhaust system and partly through the stereo speakers. Now, we would prefer to have the aural accompaniment direct from the engine, but this sounds close enough, and it makes the car feel appropriately rapid under firm acceleration. 60 miles an hour from rest occupies 7.2 seconds on the way to 140 miles an hour. At the same time, if you wish, you can monitor torque and turbo boost readouts via a GT performance mode on the instrument cluster display screen. For ProCeed buyers who are not quite so fixated on performance, the two more modest engines mentioned earlier will suit perfectly. They're both offered with a choice of either manual or automatic transmission. Kia thinks the 138 bhp 1.4 litre TGDI petrol unit is a good fit for this car, offering almost as much torque as the GT model's 1.6, although the 60 miles an hour sprint time takes nearly 2 seconds longer in an equivalent auto variant. That makes the benchmark in 9.1 seconds on the way to 127 miles an hour. Your other alternative is the highest output 134 bhp version of the brand's latest Smart Stream 1.6 litre diesel. Now, the noise that CRDI variant makes is of the rather less pleasant rumbly kind, and it does look relatively slow on paper. 60 miles an hour in the auto version takes 9.8 seconds on the way to 124 miles an hour. On the plus side though, that diesel's fulsome 320 Nm torque output works well with the DCT Auto box, and refinement does settle down throughout the kind of highway journeys in which this particular version would be in its element. In fact, all ProCeed variants feel pretty good at cruising speeds, helped by the supple multi-link rear suspension that you wouldn't get in most compact station wagon rivals, where you'd chosen an engine output below 150 bhp. On manual versions, you don't get the driving mode system that rival sportily trimmed Golf or Focus estates would offer, but we didn't feel we missed that, and we felt that this Kia offered much of the driving engagement of the Ford and most of the reassuring stability of the Volkswagen, and that's a good combination. Go for top auto-only GT Line S trim, and you'll also get a degree of driving autonomy courtesy of a lane-following assist system that in highway cruising conditions seamlessly controls your acceleration, your braking and steering. For other versions of this car though, the technology is found in more tactile things. You might even bond with one, and for a family-orientated Kia, well, that's a big step forward. Stylish cars sell. Now this, most would agree, is a particularly stylish piece of design, previewed by the ProCeed concept, first shown at the 2017 Frankfurt Motor Show, and carried forward into production without much dilution of that original car's sweeping silhouette. If, before acquaintance with this Mark III ProCeed, you'd initially wondered why Kia might need two Ceed-based estates in its model lineup, well, the unique appeal of this one becomes obvious once you view it in the metal. The roofline here is 43mm lower than it would be on the brand's more conventional Ceed Sportswagon. That flows elegantly down into the rear shoulders. Plus, this ProCeed features much longer front overhangs, along with a 5mm increase in length and positioning 5mm closer to the ground. Arguably the most arresting stylistic flourish is this so-called shark blade, an acutely angled chrome embellishment just behind the C-pillar, which has been carried over from the concept car. Now in profile, it's noticeable how taut creases run the length of the car, trailing from the headlamps to the tailgate to extend the visual length. The proportions are low, lean and lithe, with clean, curvaceous surfaces and rear haunches that are reminiscent of Porsche's much bigger premium sports estate, the Panamera Sport Turismo. The wheels here, of course, are large to suit the prevailing fashion, with 17-inch rims on the standard GT line models and bespoke red branded 18 inches here on this top GT version. Now, the only thing this car shares with the standard hatch and estate variants in this model line are its front wings and bonnet, so it's no surprise to find that the front end styling is pretty much exactly as you get on sportier versions of the ordinary Ceed, built around precise linear shapes with neat ribbed corner cutouts and Porsche-like ice cube style LED daytime running lights as standard. Now, these are built into headlamps that will feature full LED beams if you stretch above base GT line trim. As usual with modern Kias, there is this distinctive wide tiger nose style front grille, which in this case sits above a stylized bumper and a large lower air intake specific to this model. The lower lip of that on this GT performance variant features the red detailing that you also find on the front air intakes, the side steel mouldings and the brake calipers. At the back, the most notable talking point is the way that this rear screen is so much more dramatically raked than it is on the Ceed Sportswagon. It's set at 64.2 degrees rather than 50.9 degrees. A nice touch is what Kia's designers call a coast-to-coast line that unites the LED tail lamps, which illuminate really distinctively at night. Further up, there's a neat roof spoiler just below another shark-shaped piece of design, this time the aerial. GT buyers additionally get this bespoke rear bumper with a diffuser that incorporates these twin chromed exhausts. Under the skin, this car sits on the same stiff, sophisticated K2 platform that not only underpins other Ceed body styles, but also this model's close cousin, the Hyundai i30 Fastback. And that's another volume design with similar premium aspirations. Outside then, Kia has successfully evolved the rather forgettable styling of the ordinary Ceed into something really quite special. Does the same hold true inside? Not really. This car has to roll along the same Slovakian production line as other humbler Ceeds, and it uses many of the same parts, which possibly explains why the cabin furnishing is also virtually the same. Now, that might be an issue if you've been convinced enough by the slinky styling to spend the best part of £30,000 on this top GT variant. At least if you do buy in near the top of the range, you do get a few compensatory flourishes, notably these smart sport seats trimmed in leather and faux suede, and in the case of this GT, red stitching for the wheel, for the door cards and the auto gear shift gaiter. Without these additions, the humbler GT line variants feel somewhat plain, although features like a black cloth roof liner, metallic silver scuff plates, a D-shaped leather-stitched steering wheel and smart metal alloy gear shift paddles do their best to lift the ambiance. It also helps that cabin design in the third generation Ceed was pushed up market with premium derivatives like this one in mind. Hence the stitched, soft touch dash top and the liberal use of shiny piano black and cool silver effect trim around the fascia, the steering wheel and the doors. As in all Ceed models, the horizontally orientated fascia is subtly angled towards the driver and designed to give the cabin an airy, spacious feel. It's split into two sections, a lower area housing controls for audio, heating and ventilation, and an upper region dominated by this centre colour touchscreen, another from the school of interior styling that thinks modern buyers want the impression of an iPad sprouting from the middle of the dash. It's 8 inches in size with clear, neat graphics and usefully large flanking shortcut buttons. Now there's no separate lower controller for this display, such as you would get in a rival Mercedes CLA shooting brake, but We like the clarity that this setup brings to the business of accessing the usual features that screens of this kind tend to deliver. Navigation, a 6 or 8 speaker DAB audio setup with Bluetooth. Plus there's a package of Kia connected services powered by TomTom, and these are able to update you on traffic flow, journeying points of interest, the weather, local parking space availability, and the location of nearby fuel stations. If you don't want to have to pinch and swipe, there's voice control of course, and as you'd expect, you can also connect in your handset using the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto phone projection systems. Getting comfortable is easy thanks to plenty of seat and wheel adjustment, and that includes powered lumbar support. This 3-spoke leather-trimmed multifunction steering wheel feels suitably sporty, and through it you view 2 clearly presented dials which are separated by a smart 4.2-inch colour supervision cluster display that on this GT model includes a GT performance mode with torque and turbo boost readouts. There's also a trip computer, a compass, and a briefing on safety settings. Frontward visibility is expansive thanks to these thin A-pillars. Not so good though is rearward visibility thanks to the small rear screen and those thick pillars behind the rear doors that block your view throughout tight parking manoeuvres. Now Kia is apparently aware of this, which is why rear parking sensors and a rear view camera are included across the range. Plus, there's a smart park assist automatic parking system that comes as standard above entry-level trim. Cabin practicality is reasonable, although the glove box and the door pockets could be bigger, and they come trimmed only in bare plastic. And that's the sort of little detail that Kia will have to address if it wants its products to compete with premium rivals. On the plus side, the Korean brand has finally listened to our previous Ceed cabin criticisms. Firstly, by getting rid of the chintzy little chime that used to characterize its products at startup, and secondly, by providing a lidded area where you can charge your phone away from prying eyes. This compartment ahead of the gear stick here that contains 12 volt aux in and twin USB sockets. A shelf just above that can incorporate a wireless phone charging mat, and the brand has also remembered to include an overhead compartment for your sunglasses, and also below the gear lever there are a pair of cup holders, and those are covered by this ratcheting sliding top. To the right of that, this top model provides an electronic handbrake switch, and that has a small coin tray just behind it. You also get ticker clips here on the sun visors and a large storage box between the seats, which is spacious and deep, but it lacks interior connectivity points. Overall, there's really not too much to criticise here because by and large the detail stuff's been really well thought through. So latches operate with a quality click, handles slide back with a damped sigh, and you get thoughtful touches like discreet lighting around the USB and aux in ports. But of course it isn't perfect. Cheaper plastic panels have been used in areas like the base of the centre console, and there are far more switches than we're used to seeing in an interior of this kind these days. If in the minimalistic cabins that tend to characterise the most recent modern designs, you rather miss all the old-fashioned button clutter that's normally been replaced by endless options on infotainment screen menus, well, it's alive and well here in the ProCeed. Okay, let's proceed, to the rear doors. At least you get them. Classic shooting brake models of the 70s never did. Now, the fact that the wheelbase of this car is the same as that of any other Ceed, yet the roofline is so much lower, might lead you to fear the worst when it comes to back seat space. And sure enough, taller folk will have to duck a little awkwardly to get in. This model's lower hip point means that you rather drop down onto the seat bases, but it does compensate to some extent for the reduced height of that swept-back ceiling, and it means that there's actually rather more headroom back here than the exterior styling would lead you to expect there might be. Even so, those of basketball playing stature still won't thank you much for a lift home. The figures suggest that the roof height available has fallen from 940 mils in the Ceed hatch to 890 mils here. Legroom space is reduced too. That's down from 720 mils in the hatch to 670 mils in this model. We still reckon though that one 6-footer could just about sit behind another in reasonable comfort thanks to these scalloped seat backs. It's certainly more comfortable here than the rear compartment provided by this car's closest market rival, the Mercedes CLA shooting brake. For one thing, ProCeed can better accommodate 3 adults for short trips thanks to its notably low centre transmission tunnel. All variants get this rear centre armrest with its incorporated twin cup holders plus netted seat backs. There are also twin centre vents and coin recesses in the door handles, but Kia has forgotten 3 important features that would have been appropriate to this model's grand touring aspirations: reclining rear seat backs, overhead reading lights and rear connectivity ports. Now let's finish as usual with a look at the boot. We'd expected the standard inclusion of a powered tailgate across the range. You only get that though on the top GT Line S spec variant that few will choose. But this hatch isn't heavy and it rises to reveal a much larger space than you'd think any car with coupe-like styling would be able to provide. In fact, the 594-litre boot, which is 50% bigger than that of a standard Ceed hatch, actually offers more space than you'd get from conventionally styled compact estates of this kind, like station wagon versions of the Ford Focus, the Vauxhall Astra and the Seat Leon. And its capacity is only 31 litres less than you'll get in the Ceed Sportswagon, and that's mainly because of this more steeply raked rear screen. There is a higher loading lip, that's thanks to positioning of the number plate, and a narrower opening aperture than you get in that car. But once you get your stuff in, this area is practically shaped. Plus there's plenty of useful underfloor storage. And this first compartment here, just beyond the loading lip, can swallow the tonneau cover when that's not in use. And that's thanks to this left-hand corner storage area with its lift-off top. There's another useful corner compartment on the right-hand side there. And further back, you can push back this concertinaing boot floor panel to reveal more compartmentalized spaces that'll keep valuable items away from prying eyes. Although much of this space is only available because of the absence of a space-saver spare wheel on this GT variant. Other models in the ProCeed range do have that extra wheel. What else? Well, as you'd expect, there are a couple of bag hooks and 4 tie-down points, but Kia has forgotten to include a 12-volt socket, nor, more annoyingly, does the brand include the useful central ski hatch that you would get on this model's close cousin, the Hyundai i30 Fastback, so you can push through long items into the cabin without disturbing a couple of rear-seated folk. Now that is a problem on GT line and GT variants if you're taking lengthy items like skis, but it won't be if you stretch to top GT line S trim, because at that level in the range you get a 40-20-40 seat back split along with useful cargo sidewall seat retraction catches. Those are features that should be fitted, well, or at least optional elsewhere in the range. On a GT line S you also get a rail system to hold bags and boxes in place. If you need more space and you want to push forward the 60-40 split rear backrest that most ProCeed models get, you'll find that 1,465 litres of space can be freed up. That's 229 litres less than you'll get in the Ceed Sportswagon in the same configuration, but hey, that lowered roof height had to tell somewhere. There's no option for a fold flat front passenger seat to further extend things, and that would have been useful given this car's surfing lifestyle remit, but we reckon what's on offer here will be quite sufficient for likely owners. One of the things that Kia liked about the Mercedes CLA shooting brake model that inspired this car was the way that the Stuttgart brand was able to sell it at such a premium. So sure enough, this is a premium priced Ceed design, although the asking figures aren't excessive, particularly considering that the ProCeed only comes with the brand's plusher GT line, GT and GT line S trim levels. Now, from launch, GT line buyers were paying from just under £24,000 for the 1.4 litre TGDI petrol model, with £850 extra necessary to progress to the 1.6 litre CRDI diesel version. DCT auto transmission is £1,100 more in each case. If you're interested in the 1.4 litre TGDI auto, your dealer will offer you the option of finding £3,750 more for plusher GT line S trim, but that would take you to just beyond the £28,000 asking price that's needed for the more powerful 1.6 litre TGDI GT auto model that we're trying here. In terms of Ceed range positioning, an entry-level ProCeed GT line spec 1.4 litre TGDI variant costs £1,200 more than the equivalent Ceed hatch model, and about £1,000 more than a version of the more conventional Ceed Sportswagon estate, kitted out in reasonably equivalent 3 spec. If you're looking at this top performance-orientated ProCeed GT 1.6 litre TGDI model, you'll find that this sells for quite a lot more than the mechanically identical Ceed hatch GT model. From launch there was a £2,290 price gap. That's partly because the hatch comes only with manual transmission, and this powerful ProCeed comes only with a DCT auto. So, what about rivals? Well, there's only one direct one, the Mercedes CLA shooting brake, but that has a much smaller boot, it has less equipment, and it costs around £5,000 more. So you've really got to want the 3-pointed star on the bonnet to put up with all that. If you are prepared to broaden the definition of what this car is, then other rivals do come into the equation, and perhaps most notably the one that shares virtually all of this ProCeed model's engineering, the Hyundai i30 Fastback. The Fastback is more of a Gran Turismo style, sleeker take on a 5-door hatch, but it might appeal to the kind of ProCeed person who didn't mind compromising a bit of boot space. i30 Fastback prices start well below those of this Kia, but if you were to equip that Hyundai to a similar level, then you'd probably end up paying much the same as you would for this ProCeed. What else? Well, a ProCeed style budget in the £24,000 to £29,000 bracket would get you a wide choice of volume branded mid-sized SUVs, but they're more directly targeted by the brand's Ceed SUV. That same budget would also allow you to choose from quite a few sportily trimmed, more conventional family hatch-based estates, but if you were to opt for one of those, Kia argues that you'd be more likely to be looking at its Ceed Sportswagon model. Still, we'll ignore that point and tell you that a base ProCeed 1.4 litre TGDI GT line variant will cost around £2,000 more than, say, a Ford Focus estate in equivalent ST line 1 litre EcoBoost 140 PS trim, but around £2,000 less than an equivalent Volkswagen Golf estate GT 1.5 litre TSI 150 PS model. Sporty versions of compact estates like Vauxhall's Astra Sports Tourer, Seat's Leon ST and Peugeot's 308 SW and Renault's Megane Sports Tourer might also save you a bit over this Kia, but none of them offer you the same kind of style that you can get here. Some can't match this ProCeed's carriage capacity either. Enough with the comparisons. Let's say you've reached a very reasonable conclusion that there's nothing quite like a ProCeed. Well, if that's the case, then a generous standard of equipment might well be enough to seal the deal. Is that what's being offered here? Well, let's see. Now, base GT line spec comes with quite a lot. 17-inch wheels, privacy glass, front fog lamps, auto headlamps and wipers, power folding heated mirrors, a rear spoiler, rear parking sensors, an alarm and LED rear lights with a full width LED brake light. Inside, GT line variants get seats trimmed in a combination of black cloth and faux leather, dual zone automatic air conditioning, heated steering wheel, heat and powered lumbar support for the front seats, cruise control with a speed limiter, an auto dimming rear view mirror and stainless steel pedals. DCT auto variants also get steering wheel paddle shifters and a drive mode select driving mode system. There's also smart keyless entry, a 4.2-inch colour instrument cluster display screen, and the kind of space-saver spare wheel that many rivals make you do without. Infotainment is taken care of by an 8-inch centre dash touchscreen with navigation, a 6-speaker DAB audio system, a reversing camera, Bluetooth, and access to the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto phone projection systems. And this monitor does allow you to use Kia's package of TomTom-driven connected services. Now these will give you live traffic updates, speed camera locations and alerts, a local search function, and weather forecasts. Plus, the connected services package also can show the price of fuel at nearby filling stations, as well as the location and real-time availability of parking spaces. Move up to GT Line S spec and you get larger 18-inch wheels, full LED headlamps, a big sunroof with a powered blind and a smart powered tailgate. The upholstery is upgraded to black leather and faux suede, and the driver's seat gets 10-way powered adjustment. Plus, GT Line S spec further entitles you to heated outer rear seats, smart cruise control with a stop and go function, a wireless phone charging mat, and a JBL audio system upgrade that includes a couple of extra speakers. At this level, you also get parking sensors at the front that work with those at the rear as part of a smart park assist system, which will steer you automatically into spaces. Practical additions at this level include a rear bench that more conveniently splits 40-20-40 via remote folding catches, and a luggage rail system in the boot floor. In addition, there are some extra camera-driven safety features that we'll cover off in just a minute. That only leaves this most powerful 1.6 litre TGDI model that we're trying here. This variant also gets 18-inch wheels, but they're distinguished by unique red centre caps, and there's more distinct red GT trimming on the tiger nose front grille, the front air intakes, the side sill mouldings and the brake calipers. Plus you'll find further red flashes inside on the door cards, the steering wheel and on the leather and faux suede seats. GT buyers additionally get a bespoke rear bumper with a diffuser and twin exhausts, along with a GT performance mode on the instrument cluster display screen. Plus you'll get the full LED headlamps and the convenience of that smart park assist automatic parking system. Driver stuff on this GT includes special sport suspension, bigger brakes, grippier Michelin Sport 4 Pilot tyres, and an electronic sound generator which delivers a characterful engine note into the cabin. On to options. Now, as usual with Kia, there aren't that many. The brand believes that customers will prefer to move up a trim level rather than go box ticking. Now, if you haven't chosen GT Line S spec, you'll be invited to pay extra for the clever smart cruise control system with its stop and go function, and you'll almost certainly be paying your dealer extra for your choice of paint colour. On the GT Line and GT Line S variants, Silver Frost is the only shade that comes as standard. On this GT variant, Track Red is the only colour available as standard. Otherwise, you'll be paying more for one of the various premium paint colours. Now, talking of aesthetics, you might want to think about adding a trim line for the tailgate or trunk sill, or perhaps silver door mirror caps, body decals, LED door projector lights, or LED puddle lights. As for practicalities, well, you can add front parking sensors, a trunk liner to protect the boot area, a boot tidy bag, a protection foil to cover the top of the rear bumper from scratches, and a mudguard kit. For the inside, you could add all-weather floor mats, front footwell illumination, and a luggage carry hook that you could use for hanging shopping bags or your takeaways. To go on the front seat backs, you can add either a coat hanger attachment or a cradle onto which a tablet can be mounted to entertain your rear seat occupants. So let's finish with a perusal of the safety stuff on offer. Now, while some other rivals only fit the choicest high-tech camera-driven features on their very priciest variants, Kia gives you most of what you need right across the range. Its lane keeping assist setup, for example. Now, this will warn you if the car is unintentionally wandering over a road marking before gently steering your ProCeed back to where it ought to be. There's also auto-dipping headlamps, and as you would now expect from a car in this class, there is a standard autonomous emergency braking system. Now, Kia badges its technology FCA, or Forward Collision Avoidance Assist. This is a kind of setup that was a key mission from the previous generation version of this model. As usual, this is a kind of camera-driven package that, as you drive, scans the road ahead, searching for potential collision hazards. Now, if one is detected, you'll be warned. If you don't respond, or perhaps you aren't able to, then the brakes will automatically be applied to decrease the severity of any resulting accident. Now, we were a bit disappointed to find that the pedestrian-orientated element of that autonomous braking system, that's the kind of thing which is integral to most rival setups, is optional unless you specify either manual transmission or GT Line S spec. Otherwise, this feature is included as part of an extra cost advanced driving assistance pack. If you want more camera-driven safety tech, then you'll need to stretch to GT Line S trim, which gives you 3 extra features. The speed limit information function pictures speed signs as you pass them and then displays them on the screen in the instrument binnacle. And then there's BCW, which is blind spot collision warning, which alerts you if you're just about to dangerously pull out to overtake when there's a vehicle in your blind spot. The most significant headlining piece of technology, though, is the brand's LFA, and that's Lane Following Assist system. Now, this detects road markings to keep the car in the center of the lane on the highway, and it controls acceleration, braking and steering to deliver at least a limited form of self-driving tech. Other standard Ceed safety features are more familiar. There are twin front, side and curtain airbags, although no driver's knee bag, plus ISOFIX rear child seat fastenings and active front head restraints that prevent whiplash. As usual with Kia, there is the brand's VSM, that's Vehicle Stability Management System, which ensures stability when braking and cornering by controlling the car's ESC, Electronic Stability Control System, if it detects a loss of traction. In addition, as usual with a family hatch of this kind, there's tyre pressure monitoring and hill start assist control to stop the car from rolling backwards when you pull away on inclines. As you would also now expect in this segment, the ABS anti-lock brakes are aided in panic stops by a brake assist feature, plus an emergency stop signal that flashes the hazard lights to warn following motorists. In addition, a standard driver attention warning system monitors for signs of fatigue and will prompt you to take a break during a journey. A readout in the instrument binnacle will tell you when your last break was. Kia has impressive electrification technology in its product portfolio, but from launch, this third generation ProCeed model's engine range was pretty conventional, which is not to suggest that this Korean contender is somehow behind the curve in this regard. On the contrary, its TGDI petrol technology is pretty recent, and the SmartStream 1.6-litre CRDI unit fitted to the diesel version of this car was introduced only just before this Mark III model ProCeed range was announced. The 1.4 and 1.6 litre TGDI petrol units work with a wide torque band which helps response and drives down emissions, plus they work with a 7DCT dual clutch auto gearbox that has very little effect on fuel economy and actually slightly improves the CO2 readings. As for the SmartStream series diesel, well, that was designed to meet the stricter Euro 6D temp emission standard, hence the incorporation of selective catalytic reduction active emissions control technology, which uses a urea additive to virtually eradicate all NOx emissions. Anyway, let's get to the figures, which for fuel economy have been measured according to the latest stricter WLTP, World Harmonized Light Vehicle Test Procedure rating cycle. The emission stats we're going to quote here, though, have been converted back to the older New European Driving Cycle NEDC2 spec, since that's what a lot of rival models are still using. The 1.4 litre TGDI petrol unit, the most we'll choose, manages 45.6 mpg on the combined cycle and 132 grams per kilometre of CO2, or 44.8 mpg and 130 grams per kilometre in DCT Auto GT line form. For this 1.6 litre TGDI GT variant, which comes only in DCT Auto, guys, the figures are 39.3 mpg and 142 grams per kilometre of CO2. To give you some class perspective, that's only a fraction less than you get from comparable versions of this car's closest rival, the Mercedes CLA shooting brake. As you'd expect, the returns are more eye-catching with this car in CRDI diesel form. In this, guys, the ProCeed manages 56.5 mpg on the combined cycle and 114 grams per kilometre, or 54.3 mpg and 110 grams per kilometre in DCT Auto form. We reckon that this should be enough to enable a frugally minded diesel ProCeed owner to achieve an operating range approaching 900 miles from a single fill of the 50 litre fuel tank, or to put it another way, get themselves a car in which they could travel from London to Italy without refuelling. Kia has developed the SmartStream diesel powertrain to work with its EcoDynamics Plus mild hybrid technology, but at the time of this test there was some doubt as to whether that would be made available to ProCeed buyers in our market. We got the same answer when we asked about the plug-in petrol options that the brand has developed for more standard Ceeds, but by the time you view this, that thinking may well have changed. So go ahead and ask your dealer if the thought of electrification in any form seems appealing enough for you to want to pay the rather inevitable extra premium for it. Much of what delivers impressive fuel economy is of course down to the driver, hence the fuel economy meter provided in the instrument binnacle, although as usual with those sorts of readouts, all that really tells you is whether your foot's on the throttle or not. All ProCeed models get the brand's ISG, Intelligent Stop and Go system, to cut the engine when you don't need it, when you're stuck in traffic or when you're waiting at the lights. Do bear in mind though that the ISG won't function after a cold start or if the air conditioner is working particularly hard. What else? Well, the CO2 figures mentioned earlier see virtually all ProCeed variants attract a benefit in kind taxation rate of 27%. The exception is the GT Line S variant, where the figure is 29%. In the manual models and in this top GT, your first year vehicle excise duty will be £205. It'll be £165 for the other versions, and all variants attract a £140 figure in year 2 of ownership. Insurance, well, that's pitched at Group 14 for the base GT Line 1.4 litre TGDI variants, or Group 15 for the GT Line S model with the same engine, and Group 22 for this GT. For the diesel, it's Group 18 for the manual and Group 21 for the auto. You'll need to know about residual values, which are a lot higher than they used to be on mainstream Kia models. Independent experts reckon that after 3 years and 60,000 miles, most ProCeed variants will still be worth 41% of what you originally paid. The worst you'll do is with a GT Line S version, and that's rated at 39%. When it comes to servicing, the petrol variants need regular garage visits every 12 months or 10,000 miles, while the diesel doubles that mileage to 20,000. Bear in mind with the diesel that you'll need to top up that variant's necessary urea-based fuel additive in a special tank every 5,000 miles. And as usual with Kia, you can budget ahead with prepaid servicing plans, and that's courtesy of the brand's Care 3 package, which offers a fixed price deal covering your first 3 garage visits, and that's a package that can be extended to include 5 visits if you go for the upgraded Care 3 Plus option. In addition, customers can now purchase services up to and including the 7th one, so matching the full length of the warranty. Whatever plan you go for, you can also bundle an MOT test in with it, and on that basis, well, you'll have the peace of mind of knowing that virtually all maintenance costs will probably have been covered for the entire time that your name is on the logbook. An even stronger buying incentive is the much trumpeted 7-year, 100,000 mile warranty, which, like the Care 3 servicing packages, is transferable to future owners. However, it is worth pointing out that the warranty is only offering unlimited mileage for the first 3 years you own the car. Thereafter, you'll have a 100,000 mile restriction. If in future your car's sold through a Kia used approved dealership when it's less than 18 months old or with less than 18,000 miles on the clock, the warranty will be topped up to match that of a new model. There's no doubt about it, this car turns heads. And if you like it for that, then no other conventional compact estate will do in preference, no matter how sportily trimmed it might be. Of course, there may be some who will want a more premium cabin or perhaps extra power, but let them pay through the nose for the less practical Mercedes CLA shooting brake. That's the only other really direct rival to this ProCeed. Otherwise, if you're shopping in this price bracket for something a bit different, you need practicality, you prioritise style and you don't want an SUV, then we'd be quick to point you towards what's on offer here. To be frank, we wouldn't have done so a few years ago, given the vanilla way that Kias back then tended to drive, but that's all changed now. The DCT auto gearbox doesn't respond quite as sharply as we'd like, but we're impressed with the well-judged ride and handling balance, and that loses very little to its pricier Mercedes rival. This model's shooting brake concept may be a nod to past hunting wagons of the landed gentry, but the concept here is very much of our time. A compact yet spacious estate that doesn't drive like one. It's nicely finished, it's practically configured, and it's relatively affordable to run. Now true, the asking figures may be a little higher than you might expect from a South Korean manufacturer, but don't judge them until you've tried the product. It's a confident design from a very confident brand. It's very much an estate for people who wouldn't normally buy such a thing, and that makes it quite a tempting prospect.